In this lesson, we'll start getting your local system set up to take this training course and learn some useful things along the way. Now, just to be clear though, we're setting up a learning environment and will not be using production settings. To install Couchbase Server, go to couchbase.com/downloads to download Couchbase Enterprise Edition 5. Choose your operating system and then download and install the assets as required by your specific operating system. Or if you prefer to work with a containerized instance, visit couchbase.com/containers. When you run the Couchbase Setup tool to set up a new cluster, you'll assign a name for the cluster, along with an admin username and password. You'll provide the hostname and IP address, or accept the defaults, and paths for the data and index files, unless again the defaults work for you. Then you'll assign memory quotas for each service, and indicate whether to use standard or memory optimized indexing. For detailed information on memory quotas and indexing, check our documentation and online articles. Once your installation process is finished, your browser should open to the admin UI at localhost 8091. Navigation's on the left. The UI opens on the dashboard where you can quickly review cluster-wide metrics. The servers screen lets you add, remove, configure, and rebalance the nodes in your cluster. The bucket screen lets you create and manage these top-level containers and their documents. The indexes screen lets you review the definition, type, and status of each of your indices. The search screen lets you define full-text search indexing and run test queries. The query screen is a full-featured UI for building and running nickel queries. The XDCR, or Cross Data Center Replication screen, lets you define, filter, and manage data streams between different Couchbase clusters. The security screen lets you create users and assign security roles. The settings screen lets you control a wide range of settings, from compaction behavior to sample data deployment. And the log screen gives you log file access through the UI, as well as a tool to gather cluster-wide or node-specific diagnostic data. In the intro lesson of this course, which you've already taken, you'll have found downloads for the workbook, lab projects, and JSON data used in this lesson and throughout the course. If you haven't already, go download these files to your desktop. Throughout this course, you'll follow the workbook to complete each lab and use the JSON data file as instructed. Now, adding a bucket to Couchbase is easy. Just click Add Bucket, then specify the name, the per-node memory quota, the type, whether this is a persisted Couchbase bucket, a non-persisted in-memory ephemeral bucket, or a more limited cache. Then you'll set your replica count, up to 3 replicas per document, remembering that replicas never reside on the same node as their active document. So you must have as many or more nodes in your cluster as your chosen replica count. In this course, we're working with a 1-node cluster, so you'll see that we have you disable replicas in the workbook. Then you can choose your XDCR conflict resolution method, choose whether or not you want recently used documents fully ejected from memory, or if their key and metadata should remain. You'll choose whether this bucket should have a higher priority relative to other buckets, and if you wish, choose bucket-specific compaction settings, overriding the cluster-wide defaults. Now we assume from other courses you've taken, all this makes sense. If not, go take a look at the CB130 course. Last, you can choose to allow data in this bucket to be purged, which is useful during development, but likely a bad idea in a production system. That's why we give you the choice here. So the basics of setting up a user for security purposes are straightforward. On the security screen, add a user and assign a username, password, and 1 or more security roles. In this course, we take a simple approach and create a bucket-specific user account with full access to the bucket. More granular, network-integrated approaches are possible also, but they're beyond the scope of this course. Couchbase Enterprise Edition includes a powerful new tool called CB Import for bulk loading data into buckets. Data can be loaded from external JSON or CSV files in a variety of ways. Very helpfully, This tool lets you define document ID generation patterns based on data extracted from each document. Also, very helpfully, CB import is wicked fast. For coding in this course, we're using Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2015 in the videos. You may be using a different version of Visual Studio, but the approaches we show should work in all variations. For REST API testing in this course, we're using a great tool called Postman. You can download it at this URL, which is also shown in the workbook, or you may have your own tool that you prefer. So it's time to get to work. Go to the workbook and complete Lab 1. You're going to download Couchbase, the course files, and any other tools you need. Then jump in and follow the fully documented steps to get yourself up and running for this course with loaded data and configured security. And when you're done, come on back. In the next lesson, we'll talk about configuring your code to connect to a Couchbase cluster and bucket.